actually clear and known to the community, to the public. And the fourth point is that our priorities, so the priorities of the Debian project, are two equally important, which are free software on one side and users on the other side. All decisions are thinking about these priorities. And then there are a couple of provisions on how to support non-free software, which is not part of Debian, of course, but that users might need to have, for instance, their computer working, which are kind of included in the social contract as well. So if you want to have a look, it's still a very current document. You can find it at this address. So if this is the first foundation document, there is another one that we need. Because saying that we will remain 100% free software is not enough. Because there is no clear definition of free software per se. There are different institutions and associations which have given meaning to the term, but we have defined our way, our principles for being free software. And those principles are drafted by a second document, which we call the Debian Free Software Guidelines. So this is a kind of companion document of the social contract. And this document contains a sort of definition of free software, which is the definition that matters in Debian. So there are not strict rules, because the licenses of free software can evolve, so strict rules can become obsolete quite soon. But there are other guidelines. So there are guidelines which apply to specific software licenses, and which we use to decide whether a specific software license is free or not. So whether a software which has that license can be part of Debian or not, can be in the Debian archive or not. So this is the idea. And the Debian Free Software Guidelines, as a sort of trivia, has also become the original part of a second definition of free software, which is called the open source definition, and which is controlled by the open source initiative. So this is an example. These are the main points you can find in the software guidelines. So some of them are quite obvious from the point of view of the software. For instance, the code must be free or distributable. So this is a basic provision. The source code must be included. Derived works must be allowed. But some of the most interesting ones are that there must be no discrimination against person or against fields of endeavor. And this is more controversial than one might realize. For instance, often you can hear people proposing software licenses which are meant to be good software license in the sense that you can do whatever you want with this software, but you cannot use it, for instance, for military applications. You cannot use it for driving weapons, for instance. And this is principally something that many of us will consider good, but that is also something that will block to use that software together with another software which do not have that provision. So it's something which blocks the sharing changes and improvement to code. So this is why in definition like the Debian Free Software Guidance, you are not allowed to do any kind of discrimination against person or field of endeavor. And then there are a couple of other interesting points, like this point, which state that the license must not be specific to Debian. For instance, imagine a company which has a proprietary product and comes to Debian to say, okay, for you we will make it a free software respecting your guidelines, but it will be that only for the people which get the software via Debian. This is not acceptable, because once more it's a blocker for sharing the benefits of improvement of this code. So it's something we do not accept. So all the proprietary software is clearly not DFSG compatible. And there is also a case which has been a bit controversial, which is the GNU Free Documentation License, which even if it's sponsored by the Free Software Foundation, is not considered entirely free by Debian. Essentially because in the GFDL license, you can mark specific part of a document as invariant sections, which must be copied verbatim in all derivative work of this document. So this is something which Debian is not considered free, because for us there is no specific distinction among a work of art or documentation or code. So for us, everything which is in Debian must abide the same rules, and this means that if you have a GFDL document with parts that cannot be changed, well, that document cannot be part of that. The other interesting document which defines how the project works is the Constitution. So it's a real Constitution which dates back to 1998, which is fairly impressive because back then not many people used to talk about electronic democracy or using the intranet to actually have a democratic system. But Debian started doing that in 1998, and essentially in that document you find a set of rules which defines a democracy which is compatible with the way of working of free software. So you find there that the basic entity in Debian of decision are volunteers. You find there sort of minimal governance and minimal people management. And you find there the principle of do-ocracy, which I've already presented to you. So there are area responsibilities, and within those areas, whoever do some work is entitled to take every decision she wants on that work. So also, in the Constitution, you have specific bodies, which are kind of a structure of decision-making bodies within Debian. So the main part is the individual developers. Then you have a DPL, like me right now. But the DPL is not really a leader role in the project. It's more like a coordinator. So what does the DPL do? Well, first of all, I represent Debian. So go to association, trade shows, and can speak in the name of Debian, like I'm doing it here. Coordinate project activities, like the work across different teams. Decide upon project assets. For instance, decide how to use the money that Debian receives, so like donations. Decide how to use specific machines that are donated to Debian. And is a sort of decision garbage collector. So if there are decisions, especially if they are huge, that no one else is entitled to take, well, it is the role of the DPL to spot that and to take those specific decisions. So this is the role of the DPL, and the DPL can delegate some of these specific functions to other people, which are called DPL delegates. So this is the sort of governance we have in Debian. And then we have also other bodies like the Secretariat, which is used mainly to moderate elections within the project. And then we have an interesting role, which is the trusted organizations, because many free software projects exist only in a sort of virtual world. So they do not exist in the real world, and in particular, they do not exist in the legal world. So that means that, for instance, it can get very difficult to receive donations, because a completely virtual project cannot receive donations. Or it's very difficult to actually sign support contracts when you buy hardware from someone, because if you are only a virtual entity, you cannot sign a support contract. Or, for instance, you cannot use money to buy machines if you are only a virtual project. So for all this, the Constitution has a notion of trusted organizations, which are usually non-profit organizations which exist around the world, which are trusted by the Debian project and holds real assets in custody for Debian. For instance, those organizations as Debian managed, those organizations as Debian machines, and this kind of stuff. So I won't enter much in the details of this. So I've already told you that the basic decision-making process is the do-ocracy. And then there are some interesting bodies like the technical committees, which can be used if there are conflicts within Debian. Imagine there is a decision which is across different areas of responsibility. For instance, a decision which touches two packages and where the two maintainers of the packages are not in agreement one with the other. So in this case, we have this body which is called the technical committee, which can be used to actually arbitrate and decide upon a specific conflict. So, okay, this I will skip. So this was the formal part of decision-making in Debian, but the day-to-day life of Debian is actually way more informal. So essentially, the way Debian works is by teams. So we have a lot of teams within the project, and every single team can decide within itself how to organize themselves and how to conduct work. So for instance, the most common example of team are the packaging teams. So every time you have a set of packages which are somehow related one to another, for instance, packages related to the Python programming language, packages related to games, package related to the GNOME suite, or every time you can identify a specific concept and a set of packages which are related to that concept, in Debian you usually have a packaging team which as a whole take care of all the packages related to that area. And then you have other team which we call core team, which take care of important functions within the project. For instance, we have the release team, which coordinates the process of creating new releases of the Debian operating system. Or we have the FTP master team, which are responsible for the integrity of the archive of Debian packages. Or we have the security team, which monitors security mailing lists. and prepare security patches in coordination with maintainer and send out security announcements. And all these kind of teams which are needed in every single distribution. This is near there. And then, of course, as we are a distribution, we have a fairly complex process of creating a Debian release. So I won't enter the details of this, go through. So the main one which most Debian users have seen is the evolution of packages from unstable testing to stable. So this is a fairly typical. Maintainers develop their packages for a distribution, or better, a suite, which we call unstable. And after a while, packages which have been lingering in unstable and they stay there for at least 10 days without any major bug reported, well, if this happens, so if these packages have been already monitored for quality for a while, those packages can migrate to a different suite, which we call testing. Okay? And this process is usually automatic until we reach a point where we believe that the distribution is more or less ready to be released. And at that point, we freeze. So we create a new distribution, a new temporary distribution, which is called a frozen suite. And then we do all the changes needed to fix the remaining bugs. And at some point, we decide that all the important bugs have been fixed, and we release a new stable release. So this is the main workflow of packages within Debian. But then you have a lot of side workflow, like for instance, security patches. Because security patches are applied to resolve security problems also in stable releases. So you see them coming from here. And you have a lot of other collateral processes like the automatic rebuild of packages on all the architecture supported by Debian, like other suites like Volatile, which are used to send out updates to stuff like antivirus or spam checker or all this kind of stuff which needs frequent updates. So these are very complex business. And Debian is